Aga nüüd läheme korraks jälle Norra sõprade juurde. Norra Rahvusfondi peasekretär Ola Fjeldheim räägib meile inglise keeles, jällegi kõrvaklapid, kes tahab, kes vajab, räägib Hooldus restaureerimiskultuurist kui ehituspärandi kestlikkuse tagajast. Ja Ola Fjeldheim lisaks sellele, et on Rahvusfondi peasekretär, tegeleb valdkondadega nagu keskkonnatehnoloogia, kultuurilugu, traditsiooniline käsitöö ja muinsuskaitse. Ja küsimusi saate siis ka eesti keeles sli.se esitada. Palun, Ola.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this conference. I think I'll go directly to the presentation, I guess. I work for National Trust of Norway, which is a volunteer organization. We were established in 1844, and it's been working with heritage in different ways since then. I am currently in the mining town of Røros. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And right now there's a crafts workshop going for 5 days. So if you hear hammering in the background, it's only the blacksmiths making noise. Yesterday I was giving out scholarship to 7 young crafters. In the picture here is 5 of them. There's also 2 girls not able to be at the picture at the moment. And this is an important part of the circular economy and the ways we work with heritage. And I'll talk about that a bit later in the presentation. If we talk about sustainability, it's interesting to have a look at what heritage has to do in the field. This is a church in Norway, built in 1180s, and it was then the central building in the local community, and it still is after 800 plus years. A lot of the materials are still the same as was used in the Middle Ages, and this is a true picture showing sustainability and what sustainability should be like. I say it's about this is things we should look at when we want to gain sustainability in our society. Oops. Yep, thanks. We're talking about several challenges that our societies now are facing, and the climate changing is one of them. Depleting resources in the world is another one, and the ecological impact we're doing is a third one. And all these 3 challenges we have to face in the best way we can. And the heritage towns and heritage people can help in many ways. First, a few lines about circular economy. In Norway, about 2 million tons of waste are created each year in the buildings business, and 35% of this is from building new houses. And that's materials made but never used and thrown away. About 25% is from rehabilitation of all the buildings, and 40% is demolition. And in Norway right now we have about 30% reuse of materials. But as I show you in the next slide, this is actually not a good circular practice. It's downcycling. Because it's very important in the circular economy to use things as long as possible. And this means that you cannot demolish houses and use bricks and so on. That's not good circular economy. It's least preferable practice. We should use the houses where they stand. And actually, my organization and everybody involved with heritage has been working with circular economy for quite a long time, because we strive to repair houses, reuse materials, and that's sort of an ideal for this in the circular society to come. A lot of the materials used are eco-friendly, degradable, maintainable, and they have a quite low eco impact. And another important aspect, as I was mentioning in the start, is people that actually has the skills and the knowledge to repair houses and to make them last longer. And these are 4 young crafters working with traditional buildings in Norway, and they stand for a kind of a culture that wants to repair things, and that's extremely important. And this means that if we want to make the historic towns, the heritage, contribute in the circular economy, it's very important to educate good crafters to work with these houses, especially in the traditional crafts, because they know how to fix houses in the best ways and with the best materials. The heritage business also has a culture for repairment, and that's a culture for sustainability, because among the ideals is that things should last a long time. We're not craving for new stuff, not craving for the new stuff showing up every week or stuff like that. It's like if it's old, if it shows it's old, it's very good, and that's the base of a culture that take care of things and make them last longer. The next I'm going to talk a bit about is the climate impact from all the buildings. This is a few Norwegian reports made on the subject, and also a few English ones and one American. And it's now it's a common established fact that taking care of old buildings is very important in reducing the climate impact that we do. This is a Norwegian survey made in a small town in municipality West Fossen. And it's a study in which they used some 50 old buildings. And if you see the graph at the left, it's four different lines. This is LCA. It means that it shows the climate impact over the 60 years. And each year is added to the next one. The blue line, it's what happens if you don't do anything, just leave the houses as they are. And of course that generates quite high energy use. So we can see that it doesn't take long until the other scenarios is better than the blue one. The red one is a scenario that if we do some small and middle-sized measures on the houses to save energy, and the two other ones, the green one and the yellow one, is if you tear the houses down. The yellow one is if you tear the houses down and instead build new houses with a lot higher density so you can populate more people. The important thing here is that the best climate option here is to do the small and medium measures on the houses. And you can see that both in the short-term view and in a long-term view in 60 years. That's the best option in the climate. For the climate. This is also clear if you take a closer look at the graphs here, because we know now that we have a carbon budget. We can do only so much polluting, only so much emissions until 2030. And the left line is 2030, and we see that the minimum, the small intervention alternative scenario 2 is far the best one. It's almost half the emissions than the other alternatives, and also in year 2050. We can break this down to single houses. And my organization has made some recommendations for old wooden houses, what is the best thing to do. And it's about 5 steps, here summed up in 4 to make it easier. The first one is to control temperature, lower it in when you're not using the house, maybe lower it in rooms that you're not using. The second one is isolation in some selected areas of the house. You isolate the roof towards the attic, and you isolate the floors. And we recommend that we use organic isolation because that works best with the wooden houses and has a lower climate impact. We also suggest that you do upgrade to the inner windows. That means 2-layer with an energy coating. And that's a very important measure for the houses. And do not change the windows, but then make inner windows on the original ones. And maybe the most important one is reducing air leaks. We have now a building that we own in the town Lillehammer in Norway. It's just been doing some calculations on how the measures done on that building. And you can recognize maybe the same alternatives as in the graph I showed you earlier. The one to the left, here letter A, that's if we don't do anything, just leave the house as it was, and it will then use a lot of energy, accumulated over 60 years, as you can see. What we have done to the house is some small and medium upgrades. That's a B alternative. We followed the recommendations that I showed you earlier on. And the result is 45% loss in energy use and a 64% loss in carbon emissions over a period of 60 years. If we instead were to tear down this house and build a new one, according to Norwegian standards right now, we will have an emission level that's about 50% higher than the upgrade alternative. And the same goes if we build with climate-friendly materials, and also if we build what's in Norway called a passive house. That means a house that produces its own energy. So as you can see, the far best alternative for in the climate calculations is the one with the upgrade. And this means that old houses can really do the difference. Again, we take the graph and show it to you. It's first line 2030, and that's in less than 10 years, and the same in 2050. And you can see the lowest line all the way there is alternative B, as I showed you, the small upgrade. We have several places around Norway. We have advisory centers that work for to promote crafts and good technical solutions for old houses. A lot of these advices, they tend to go towards using traditional materials and traditional repair techniques, because that's very often the best way to handle the heritage, but it's also the best climate alternative, and it is, as I showed you, circular economy applied to a city or buildings. So we are now trying to use these several places around Norway, and the crafters is a central point in this strategy to educate new crafters, traditional crafters that can repair these buildings the way they were repaired, and with the eco-friendly materials that they once were built with. This, of course, applies a bit easier to buildings built before 1950, but it's also a lot of them around in the cities. This here is from our capital, Oslo, where we have an advisory center called Murbyen. Maybe I should translate it to a brick city. And a lot of the houses in Norway is of this type. And there are a lot of the houses in Oslo is of this type. Historical brick buildings built in the 1850s to about 1930. And it's among the best in a sustainability way of looking, it's maybe one of the best alternatives we can have, because these are easily repairable and can be standing for quite some 100 years from now. These measures summed up together is sums up in a way in UN's 11th sustainability goal, and all towns, if with good practice, can be climate friendly, and we can have a circular economy. And this circular economy helps building local communities, local identity, and a culture for sustainability. I guess that was about it. Yep. Thank you for your attention. Maybe you have some questions as well.
Thank you, Ole. Great to see... vabandust, pidin eesti keeles rääkima. Nii inspireeriv näha sellist
I cannot hear at the moment, so maybe you need to turn on the sound. Yep, I can hear you now.
Väga hea. Nii inspireeriv näha süsteemset lähenemist, kus kultuuripärand ongi see ringmajandus, osa ringmajandusest, et Eestis me oleme sellest veel sealmaal ei ole.